I'm Nela, artist and designer, and in today's sketchbook tour, I'll be sharing this Moleskine sketchbook that started off as just an ordinary sketchbook, you know, with drawings in my usual style and technique. But since I didn't really like using it for my sketches, over time it evolved into something completely different. Basically a mixed media visual journal. And it's quite different from anything I've shown you so far. And it's quite different from anything that I've made, really, because this sketchbook has tons of experiments in it, some of them successful, some of them less so. And that was really an interesting experience for me for filling it up. It took me a while to complete this. So I started it in 2012, and I've used it until recently, which is 2020, as of this recording. And so you can imagine that things have been changing in that time. But now I've finally completed it at last. And now I can share it with you. So come and check out what's inside. Here we are with sketchbook number 6, started in 2012. And so the reason why I didn't really enjoy the sketchbook very much is because I didn't like how it worked with my Pentel brush pen. So you can see it here. I'm not sure if you can see it on video. Yeah, it looks to me like you can. The ink done with this brush pen is coming out very gray instead of pure black, which is what I like in my ink. And so, okay, so here's some pencil drawing. It's a dream I've had, and this is some watercolor pencil drawing of my latte. So, of course, I did try some other techniques here. Here is something like an art journal, we might say. It was relating to my procrastination habits, and that was my to-do list. And actually, I can cross this off because I did it. I completed all of my list. And so that's a bit of brush pen and watercolor pencils. Since brush pen is one of my top drawing mediums, the top one. Here's some portraits with a ballpoint pen of people that were sitting at a sci-fi convention. Eurocon 2012. That was a good convention. This is copied from Hans Reddy Geiger. You have probably seen this drawing. This is another dream doodle. Anyway, brush pen again, some fine liners and pencils and gel pens, some kind of positive message for myself. Anyway, I didn't really like how my brush pen drawings were coming out, so I switched to different sketchbooks that were much better for me in that respect, because that's kind of a deal breaker for me. If I can't draw nicely with my brush pen in a sketchbook, then that sketchbook is definitely not for me. But I tried. I honestly gave it my best. This is a study of Gustave Courbet, if that's pronounced right. I'm not really good with French names. Anyway, this was a challenge I started. I didn't do everything in this sketchbook. I also used another one, but I failed this challenge. I didn't complete the whole 30 days. This is based on Forrest Gump, the book, not the movie. The movie Forrest Gump was never in space. Favorite cartoon character, Sailor Mars. Not really true to her manga and anime appearance, but fun exercise. These are some character drawings that I wanted to work on for my graphic novel that never came to be. I don't know if it ever will. I kind of lost that thread of thought in the meantime. I mean, this was 2012 after all. Some ballpoint pen doodles during a conference. Just details. That also used to be one of my favorite techniques for drawing. a portrait sketch of my partner, which actually came out rather good, surprisingly good. I think that was my first portrait of him that looks like him. I became better with time. And some pigeons that moved really quickly, so obviously it was quite hard to catch them. Some doodles, I don't even know where that was, probably somewhere downtown. This is one of my favorite drawings, and here, look at how much it shines. That's paint pen, gold paint pen, and some markers and some brush pen. And this drawing here actually won me a prize. I won a pack of Canson and Talents art supplies, so some Canson sketchbooks and my Van Gogh watercolor kit and some sketching pencils. So basically this was one of my most profitable, if not the most profitable sketchbook artworks ever. I mean, so far, at least. So that's why it's very dear to my heart. Okay, moving back into view. So here's what I kind of decided, okay, I'm not going to sketch with ink again in this sketchbook because it's just not working. So I decided to test some other art materials, and these are some colored pencils with another positive affirmation. And this one is gouache. And I'm not good with gouache. I haven't used gouache since elementary school until this page right here. And there's some watercolor pencil in the background. So working with it, it's much more challenging for me than working in acrylics because things kind of blend more than I would like, and it's a bit challenging. But I wanted to try it. I really wanted to try what would work in this sketchbook that I can use because I didn't know what else to do. So gouache was, I used it in a couple of other pages too. Some more dream journaling, another colored pencil, portrait thing. And this, I'm gonna go through these ones quickly because they're kind of personal. Okay, let me stick here. I did some like visual journaling exercises. So it's, I was just starting my business in 2013. So I kind of made plans and figure things out. And I also used Lisa Sonora's book, The Creative Entrepreneur, which had some suggested exercises. And this was one of them. I don't know if these were, but this one definitely is. Kind of portray the right brain, left brain thinking, which is not a philosophy that I personally subscribe to. But it was an exercise, so I did it. This is also gouache on the background and colored pencil on the portrait. That's supposed to be self-portrait, not really true to my likeness. But what you see here is paint coming out through the cracks from another spread. And you're going to see that a lot in this sketchbook and some of my other sketchbooks. And it used to bother me, bother me a lot, but I came to terms with it. So I suppose anyone could learn how to be less precious about their sketchbooks if they just wreck them enough for long enough. Usually when I'm happy with a drawing in a sketchbook, I'm going to scan it immediately before it kind of degrades. So I always have a pristine scan of my work, but then this happens and it's just, you know, the evolution of work. Nothing is permanent. Everything gets messy sometimes. I don't know if this is acrylics or gouache or whatever. I can't remember because it was a long time ago. I suppose you can guess what this was about. I was in a lot of pain when I was doing that page, that's for sure. And there's some really nervous, scratchy marks. I'm not sure if camera is picking that up, but yeah, pain. Some quick gouache and colored pencil doodles. This was some leftover paint from my palette from another painting that I was working on. So I just slashed it on here and then tried to do something over it with oil pastel because I've seen some other artists do that. Connie Solera is one of them who really works well with oil pastel and acrylics, but I didn't like it. So that's one failed experiment. This is gouache in the background and colored pencil lettering. Reminder to myself that I am enough, because I forget that. I forget that often. And this is actually one of the affirmations for myself that I did over several sketchbooks. So it's kind of a theme that I'm coming back to, that, you know, sometimes I don't have to work so hard. I don't have to prove myself. I'm just enough as I am. But yeah, some of us need to hear that more often than others. This was some problem solving, visual problem solving. Sometimes when I don't have any idea how to solve a problem, then I try to kind of draw diagrams and write stuff, and sometimes it helps, sometimes it doesn't. It's worth a shot for me, but you know, it's not magic really, although some would say that it always works for them. I can't say that for myself. Okay, so this one has this protective sheet because these pages are sticking together. Sometimes acrylic paint will do that. I started, you know, there were kind of torn pieces here and there that I had to go back and fix because it was really that sticking that bad. So this started off as some kind of a doodle, and then I taped over some of my calligraphy practice sheets over. You can see some calligraphy, just barely, and painted over that. I was really trying to get into this whole mixed media acrylic painting into sketchbooks thing, which was a learning curve for me. I don't really do abstract stuff, so I'm trying to get a hang of it. This is a stencil that I made myself for my painting Crucified 2 that has this pattern on the wallpaper behind my my muse, the woman in the painting, which is my friend. And then I didn't know what to do with that, so it remained that way for months, probably, maybe years. And then I went back and just drew this silhouette of a portrait and covered it up in black. So it's quite cool. I'm quite pleased with how that one turned out. Sorry if the paper is making weird sounds. Try to be quiet here. This is a paint marker and some white gel pen, in case you were wondering. This was another media experiment. That's soft pastels over gesso applied with my fingers. I didn't enjoy it. I don't like what it turned out, so scratch that. I didn't do any of those later. This is some kind of a mask, I suppose. Watercolor pencils and brush pen. Okay, so here's where stuff gets interesting. So Creative Practice is a course by Lisa Sonora that kind of gets into the whole building a daily creative habit thing. And I did some class assignments, actually not some. I did all my class assignments in the sketchbook the second and the third time that I went through with that. The first time I went through, I had a different sketchbook for that. So there's a lot of writing that you're gonna see that's relating to the course, and some artwork that relates to the course. And this one is actually, this was one of the last pages that I've completed here, and look at the shiny. This is metallic bronze Van Gogh watercolor paint. And there's some, so I'll explain a bit what this is. This started off as a page full of writing. And then years later, I came back to it. I covered it up with gesso, with these scraps of red paper, and just went wild with it over upcoming months. So there's some gel pen, there's some marker, there's some water-soluble crayons, and all sorts of stuff here. And so even though this page was filled up in 2016, I went back and kind of covered it up with stuff. And that happens a lot in this sketchbook. So here also, these are extra papers that I glued in. So I like drawing on black paper, so I added it here. And there's some writing here that happened in 2016, I think. And then I went back and taped this in and made this little paper cut rose window. I love paper cutting and rose windows, of course. So I like how they're interacting with the page behind it and the shadows that show up when you lift it up just slightly. Really love that stuff. And some doodles here from 2019. So the timeline here is all over the place. It doesn't follow any logical order or sequence, and that's the way it should be. This one also started off as a page that was full of drawings. Excuse me, a page full of writing. And then I went back and covered it with gesso and with these yellow scraps of paper, and then finished section by section, you know, did this one, this one, this one, this one. Each one was kind of an individual section made at a different time. And then in the end, I kind of added these leaf prints and some words and call it a day. So this says in Croatian, grouches need friends too, because it's true. I kind of consider myself a grouch, and I do love my friends. So that's some reminders for later. Here's just some writing on added paper. So this third page here is glued in from, that was a table placemat from a local fish restaurant, actually. This has, again, these flaps, fake money, more flaps here. So it opens up like this, and then there's some writing here underneath, and here is a sketch of a dragon and a pocket with pages full of writing. So a lot of these stuff is things that I've learned from Lisa, Sonora, in the course, and not necessarily the things I would do on my own or that I continue doing in my other sketchbooks. Just like to try out new things. This is another one where this is a postcard I got from a science fiction convention in Barcelona, and this is another one I got from the convention. I don't know what to do with these postcards, so I just stick them in so they have a place to stay. This also started off with full of writing, and you can still see some of the writing peeking out through the paint. And then I went over it with, these are Inktense pencils and some white gel pen. These are water-soluble crayons and also some white gel pen. And this I cut out from a magazine. I really like the look of that. This kind of stencil, spray, black and white kind of graphic. So put it here. Onward. Oh, this is one of my favorite in the sketchbook. It had to be, it was intended to be like a media test for water-soluble crayons because it just got some new ones in my kit, and I fell in love with water-soluble crayons. You're gonna see in the pages moving forward, there's quite a lot of that going on because I just love them so much. I didn't know I would. It was so surprising. So essentially, you can blend them with water so they fill out the whole white of the paper, which it's really important for me to be able to kind of get rid of the white. And then you can kind of mush them together with fingers and get these lovely textures. So yeah, loving it. This is made over a page from a psychiatry book. So it's taped over some text that was here that I wanted to cover up, and some more writing here. These are pockets made from postcards by the artist Autun Purser, also from, obviously, Barcelona. And they have some writing, and I have some calligraphy scraps here waiting for to use them somewhere. I don't know if I will. Some stickers just to fill out the empty space. And now this is something that I did specifically because of the course, so to try out the exercises. Not something I would normally do in my sketchbooks. So this is a page from a furniture catalog because I don't read magazines. I don't have any paper stuff besides some brochures and catalogs from supermarkets that I got in my mailbox. So I kind of glued these because I like the color scheme, and then did some writing on the topic of home and home renovation, because that was kind of important to me at the time. We were living in an apartment that we still live in, which was kind of a work in progress, and it bothered me. So I kind of wanted to think about ways of making it nicer for myself, because I'm a very aesthetic person, and it really matters to me that I have a lovely environment. And this is just a tracing paper printed with some golden spiral and a tiny study of a seashell and some lace printing. Didn't turn out quite as I expected it to, but you know, it's an experiment. Everything here is one big experiment. This, again, some tracing paper with writing over it. Sorry if it's making funny sounds. A mandala doodle, another mandala here. This page is covered with black gouache, but black gouache, as you can see, it's making these really textures that I'm not loving. So this was just a scribble to fill out the page, nothing important. And this here is a collage of my calligraphy practice from years ago, and then some decorative paper and some scraps from a box of chocolate and so on. And I was an idiot, and I covered it up with gel medium, glossy gel medium to be exact, and gel medium sticks. So you can see some of it got damaged. So I have to keep this tracing paper page right here in between these two pages so they wouldn't be sticking together all the time. And lesson learned, don't use glossy gel medium in a sketchbook ever, because stuff's gonna stick together. Some more writing here with some brochure, travel brochure, and some, I don't even know what this is. Some nice house. Just random. A page that was entirely red from a brochure, so I stuck it here to draw something on it. More stuff for the class from this last year's class, the one that just wrapped up a couple of weeks ago. So some writing for the class, and then an extra kind of scrap watercolor paper that I found somewhere in my studio and decided to use it and then glue it here, because small pieces like this can easily get lost if I don't have them somewhere permanently stuck. So this is watercolor at the bottom. So this page and this page looked quite similar when I started off with them, but then I kind of turned this one into some kind of a, let's say, half realist stuff. So it has gel pen, white gesso, some Inktense pencils to kind of make the colors stronger. And this one is with gold gel pen. It's really, really shiny. Some dragonflies and swamp foot plants. Forgot what they called in English. This page also had some writing on it when I started off, and then I covered it with black gesso, which is one of my favorite things now in life, and then drew these circles with white acrylic paint and made these tiny mask characters over them over the period of a couple of days. So I would start off with a couple and then move on the next day. And you can see this one also has some shiny, I'm not sure, okay, it's picking up. So that's also metallic watercolor paint, also from Van Gogh. And the rest is brush pens and markers, ink pens, stuff like that. This is another extra sheet of paper that I taped with some washi tape. So these are prompts from the class that I did, and there's some more writing from the class on the opposite side, and then it folds out here. And this one, there was also some writing on this page, and so I covered it up with torn pages from Alice in Wonderland. And don't worry, I have several editions of Alice in Wonderland, so I dedicated one to using in my art pieces. I also use them in some of my newer mixed media paintings. So I covered it all in red, or these kind of crimson acrylic paint, and then drew over it with water-soluble crayons. I use Neocolor 2 and Stabilo Woody crayons. So this is all crayons and a bit of white, I don't know, gouache, I think, for this gloss. And the black is really intense. I'm really liking how the black crayon is covering it all up. It's pretty cool. This was another media test, so no sense in this, just going over with as many things that I could find in my studio to try out how it works over black gesso. So there is some metallic gold gel pen, which works great. White gel pen also works great. White gouache, obviously, works quite well. But then some other things which are a little less, like crayons and colored pencil, and there's a bit of pastel pencil. These are slightly better, but then they get easily smudged. So I was just testing things to see, you know, which ones will work. This is also over a page from a psychiatry book, and these are some flaps from a travel brochure. And this is, so the background is all water-soluble crayons. And then I went over that with more crayons for the little root things, and the white eyeballs are all gouache because I wanted them to really pop out from the background, to not show any letters through them. And then I went over that with water-soluble colored pencils. I use Inktense and Kohinoor Mondeluz colored pencils for all the tiny delicate details. And yeah, really enjoyed working on this page. It's weird, but it's fun. This is a spread wait, is there anything? No, this is the next one. I did this when I came back from my trip from Malta. So this is a little pocket made from, again, a brochure of Malta temples, really old temples, older than pyramids. And there's stuff, more stuff from the brochures where we went, and some writing. And this pattern is inspired by the rock carvings that I've seen there. And this is something that I've seen. We visited the old prison in one of the Malta cities, and I've seen a lot of carvings on the brick walls where inmates would be carving the shape of their own hand, or they were carving the silhouette of a ship that they sailed on, and so on. So these hands really reminded me of, you know, what you do as kids. You trace your own hand, and I haven't done that in ages, so I did this page kind of inspired by that, to see, you know, what a tracing of my own hand as an adult would look like. And this is, the background is gouache, and then I went over that with water-soluble crayons and Stabilo pencils. So it's kind of blendy, painterly thing. This, again, flaps from a brochure that I really like, these little swans and nature. It really spoke to me. The insides are a little less interesting. So this one, it's really, I just taped in some Japanese stuff, let's put it that way. So these are, I cut out from a box of my favorite perfume, which is Kenzo Flower. I've been using that one for over 15 years, really. And so then I taped in a ticket for a museum of Japanese art that I visited in Krakow, in Poland. I really liked also the pattern and this typical kind of print of their landscape. And this is, I found this is a business card that I found at an exhibit of handmade Japanese paper. So it's also handmade paper, really lovely with these kind of textures. So it's Osada Washi Co Ltd. That's my Japanese spread. I didn't add any of my own art because I just don't know what to do. Maybe I could write some impressions, reminders of what I've seen. I could probably do that. This more writing stuff and some stickers to fill up the page. The snake. Okay, it's a little bit shiny because crayons can get that way when you apply them, but also the ink. So this was also an experiment. There's all sorts of stuff down there. I did like a full spread with covered with water-soluble crayons, activated with some kind of matte medium. So that where the whole page was covered up with that paint, and then I drew over this snake and covered up the negative space with first black ink, but that didn't turn out quite right. It was flaking off and might still flake off in some areas. And then I went over it with a black water-soluble crayon. So now, not looking very perfect, but the idea is here. And you can see that it's kind of rubbing off, so it's already kind of getting messy, but okay. As I said earlier, we gotta get used to that. So that one is, and is this the last one? Yeah, this is the last one. Okay, so it's taped here because I was abusing this sketchbook a lot, so it started coming apart, and so I taped it together. This is another spread filled out with acrylic paint. This is a piece of a tissue box with an inspiring message and a hand study that I got bored of, so I then did a really quick and messy thing here. And that's it. This is it, and this is just some notes that I wrote when I flipped through the whole sketchbook to see, you know, if there's any themes, what I've learned, stuff like that, and that's it. That's it from this sketchbook. Sorry if this was so long. I hope you got to enjoy some of it at least. And yeah, see you again soon in some other video. Bye-bye.